Ask not what your favorite TCG can do for you. Ask what you can do for your favorite TCG. Hey, I've got a quick one for us today. This is for all the folks who are knee deep in Lorcana every day and watching the box price of first chapter drop $20 and they think the sky is falling. Anyone who doesn't sub to Frank's channel, please do so. It's just a delight. He's like me. He's another algo fighter. He's just gonna make videos on whatever the fuck he wants to make videos on, and I love it so fucking much. But he's a TCG grizzled vet. You know, he's been around the block. No one knows more about the Mega Man TCG than your man Frank. And I just wanted to share a video of he, like many people, if you look beyond like the hype machines, the people who either want to FOMO a new TCG or a specific set of a TCG or FUD it up. There are a whole bunch of people in the middle who are just like sitting back and perceiving the whole TCG landscape because they're just kind of general enthusiasts and hobbyists. And maybe it might be good for some of those folks who are, again, in the day-to-day Lorcana and they're thinking, man, is this whole thing going to go sideways and die at any second? Let's just get a little perspective from someone who, up to this point, had no skin in the game. Even let's add this video. I'm an old man. I don't know any of these buttons. I don't. It's all very confusing.
Which,
Okay,
remember, okay, the first chapter, Ravensburger.
should prop this a bit. So he's kind of catching up his audience on the ins and outs of how Lorcana has gotten up to this point, and kind of explaining in his estimation what it is that Lorcana has kind of gotten right through their first 2.5 years of publishing. But he's speaking specifically here of, again, I mentioned in the intro, a lot of people look at the first chapter box and its value dip below 300 again, and they just think, well, there are no collectors anymore. That means that no one wants this shit. It's like I don't think you're taking a step back enough to realize what it means in TCG's legality to have those sets that are rotated out still have any value at all. And that's exclusive to the first two and not the second two, obviously. Anyone looking at the Inklings and Ursula's return boxes right now are like, Phil, that's like distro price, isn't it? I don't know. It's fucking close. But those first two are clearly still holding a premium because there's some sort of collector base out here, is the point that Frank is making. If I don't just make the point for him, why did I even make a video with Frank? You go, Frank. You do it.
Made it very clear from the get-go that they were going to make this set super hyper available for everybody. It was going to be the most available thing ever. If you wanted to play with the first chapter, if you wanted to open it, you'd be able to. A lot of people, myself included, were highly skeptical of the collectability of this card game with that kind of stance in mind. Here we are. First chapter came out in 2023. It's been 3 years. It's been almost 3 whole years since Lorcana first dropped. And while it's not as high as it's ever been, it's not done what some people were expecting it to do upon rotation, which was collapse completely with no more legality in the main set, in the main format. It didn't collapse. In fact, you can still get, I think it's hard to find boxes under like $250 or anything, which is a great sign for collectors, investors, which are going to be the backbone of any TCG going forward. I know that a lot of people out there don't like to hear that, but like it or not, people spending big money on your card game is what keeps the card game in business. I know that that's a shock, but the guys out there who are spending $20 a month at their LGS to get a few cards for the deck, they're not the guys who are keeping a card game in business. It's the people who are buying cases and cases of the product because they think they'll be able to sell it either for a quick return now or for a lot of money down the road.
And that's fair. It's also not lost on Frank, obviously, that a fair amount of those cases get ripped open. But to his point, any TCG that makes it apparent, even when they're trying to get past that initial hype cycle, that they're going to keep printing regardless, that is trouble. If you go back to my earliest videos, if you want a game with no collectability, you want a tabletop game, you want their card games that have no collectible aspects to them. And I'm not saying that with any hate. I'm just getting through to you that there's a part of TCGs that if you're not getting that collector base, if you're not getting some people who are looking at all the people opening the boxes just to play the game and thinking, "Oh my God, that means all the boxes are just going to be gone someday." You need a draw of both of those crowds, which is very much to Frank's point. It is a merciful move on Ravensburger's part to cut back on their print runs to ensure what they are producing now is matching what they currently have in the market as far as collectors and players, so they can gradually grow from there. Let me find the other clip. I don't want to steal all of Frank's video. Obviously, he's a very like level-headed collector in TCG. So I really fully recommend that if you don't subscribe to Frank's channel, please do so, or at the very least, go give this video a watch and get his views in full, so I don't
The
steal
fact that you can't
any
really
of his views.
progress in terms of
I wanted to queue up, I think it's a bit before this. He does still have their very valid criticisms, right? That Ravensburger is still lacking, and we're seeing moves towards this filling of this gap of trying to support more local play. And I think Frank does a good job of kind of outlining
But yeah, like those
that
cards,
being
like
still
cheaters
the
getting caught at bigger tournaments, which is crazy to think about. That really would be. That's for a different channel, I suppose. But yeah, like those cards are desirable, and there's more and more people talking about the game, the meta of the game, the collectability of the game, news. There's all kinds of. It feels like all the time I'm hearing about like cheaters getting caught at bigger tournaments, which is crazy to think about that still goes on. But
saw that one.
anything for a win, right?
Interesting.
Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows in the world of Lorcana. There are still criticisms that people have for the game. I am hearing that there's still not like substantial tournament store support for the game. There's like, some promos that nobody really wants. But I suppose that could just be a
How dare you, sir? I'm gonna stop him on that one. I think the pre-release promos are a new addition, and I am stoked for them. So I don't know if that's what he meant here, but I'm really, really excited. To his point, though, yeah, obviously local support, having pre-release sets and promos that encourage people to come to these release events at the local shops would have been happening a lot earlier for sure.
side effect of it being relatively casual. But remember, Lorcana is a casual-ish game in terms of core design, and it is, in my opinion, aimed at a younger audience. So maybe not having hyper-competitive cards that you can only get through tournaments is a good thing, but it is still something that I have heard people complain about. I've also heard people complain about the fact that you can't really progress in terms of their equivalent of the pro scene for Lorcana through local events. You have to go to the bigger tournaments just to qualify for the larger tournaments. You can't, there's no like point system for progression in Lorcana, unlike with card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Flesh and Blood, where you can attend a bunch of local events and that alone will qualify you if you're good enough and if you attend enough for the higher tier events.
So I'm coming at this completely from a casual collecting standpoint. I've registered for a Winter Spell pre-release is the extent of my organized play thus far with Lorcana. Um, he's dead on though. Like I understand how important that's going to be to drive people back to their stores on the week-to-week basis is having some sort of point system where you're accumulating your wins, so to speak, so that the number of people who are fighting over these spots for these DLCs is just crazy to me. I They had a very top-down approach to organized play, and I'm hoping that the moves they're making, it's drawing me in at least. Those promo borders are dope as fuck. And I'm gonna get, at least I'm gonna get Timon. I'm gonna have my little 4 of 'em in a row. I'm excited to start collecting those pre-release promos specifically. So how dare you, Frank, talk shit on that? But absolutely, local play is super, super important. And I don't hear any news about any kind of like point system, something that's going to gamify your league experience and not just the actual physically playing of the game. Something that's going to incentivize that um, repeat business and that sense of community that a shop can then build. On the last piece I wanted to highlight here is how that might influence then. Frank is one of many TCG enthusiasts who is leaning back in their squeaky chair, perhaps stroking their gorgeous beard, thinking, should I buy a box or two of Lorcana? Let's see what Frank is thinking
More
here.
so than I was even seeing for Whispers in the Well. Now, maybe this is just a byproduct of the kind of bullish hyper like hyper FOMO cycle the entire TCG market appears to be experiencing right now, because there's a lot of that. You know, people are buying out One Piece, Pokemon. They're buying up Dragon Ball Super, for Christ's sakes. So yeah, it makes sense that some people who are looking to make a quick buck would turn to a game that has had success and is being more positive. That makes sense. But also, I do believe it's legitimate interest. I personally believe it's legitimate interest. And with that in mind, going forward, I'm going to, as I've said before, I'm an opportunistic buyer. I buy what I like, and I buy what I think is at a good discount. A lot of Lorcana, with my new positivity in mind, is effectively at a discount. Especially the first chapter for how old it is. It's 3 years old. Will Ravensburger keep up their policy of just printing it into the ground forever? I think with 3 years under the set's belt, now's a good time to start stress testing that.
You think it's very well put there. It's kind of the, let me pop back in, the overall market sentiment is, will Ravensburger just keep printing everything? From anyone who isn't like a FOMO or FUD machine, they're more going like, oh man, how much of this first chapter are they going to print? And a lot of them now, and now that we're nearing the end of that print cycle, it's out of rotation. There's no real good reason to go back and print it. It is when a lot of these, the smart money, the smart collectors and investors, whatever you want to call them, are going to be going, oh, okay, well, now's the time to be maybe collecting a couple boxes of that TCG because it looks like it has legs. Because instead of thinking, imagine if this game's around in 10 years, what is this going to be worth? They looked at a new game launching and they went, oh, they're going to have problem X or Y. You know, you know what? Actually, let me pull Frank back. I think this is really important perspective to add because he sums it up
Sooner or
honestly better
later,
than I could on you know, obviously he talks about all sorts of TCGs, just like Mason at Cards and All Gaming, or Card and All Gaming. I always put an extra S in there. I apologize, Mason. But he compared Lorcana to Star Wars Unlimited at different points during this video, which I just think is funny how often it keeps getting brought up. It really sounds like some Lorcana players need to play Star Wars Unlimited. Star Wars Unlimited collectors need to collect some Lorcana, and we all just mix it up in a little soup. Maybe that'd be good for both games. Because as Frank lays out here, it's kind of a rising tides lift all boats kind of situation. You know, I come from, in my comic book collecting background, I would look at a lot of Marvel and DC comics as those books don't need me. I'm going to be able to buy a trade paperback of that comic that I'm really interested in 6 months down the road because that's a giant company and they forecasted to make at least 12 issues of this fucking comic. Those smaller indie publishers, maybe those are the ones you need to be looking at, finding ways of supporting. And as I've gotten more and more into TCGs, I'm like, man, maybe we need to look beyond supporting just the big two and grow this hobby outward before we worry about growing it upward. A rising tide will lift all ships. And I feel like a lot of criticisms from folks like Frank or a Mason might be seen from those of us, again, knee deep in the hobby as like a personal attack. And I think he lays out here well why it's, you know, he's willing to go, oh, hey, I was wrong about Lorcana because they did X or Y right. And I didn't think that they would, you know, it's something bringing an honest assessment of shit, and I think he sums up well here why it's not someone getting something wrong isn't evidence that they were a hater or whatever people want to throw out in comment sections and shit like that.
I have some other things I need to buy. There's a new Yu-Gi-Oh set coming out that I really want to get a lot of, but at least a box or two just to sit on would not be a bad idea in my opinion. So I'm probably going to grab like 1 or 2 boxes of the first chapter just to throw on the shelf over there and enjoy that. Because I would be able to make this video on the shelf over there and enjoy that. Yeah, my own speculative speculative future purchases aside, Lorcana's looking good. And I'm very happy to be able to make this video about it because I've said it on the channel before and I'll say it a bazillion times. I don't want any card game to fail. I want them all to be successful because I want a healthy and super diverse market. Giving individual players and card game fans a lot of options forces individual companies to really do their best to give the best product they can. So when there's a lot of healthy competition, I personally think it's good for the market. So when there's Star Wars Unlimited fans telling me that I want the game to fail, I don't want the game to fail. Lorcana fans who are telling me that I wanted the game to fail, I didn't want the game to fail. Magic fans, Pokemon fans, Bleach TCG fans, I don't want any of them to fail. I don't want any of them to go down in history as another dead card game because I legitimately want as much variety as possible.
That, my friends, is a hobbyist. That's not someone who's trying to pump a bag of a box that they own, and they're not trying to fud up something of a box that they missed the train on. They're just giving you their take. So I really appreciate that from Frank, and I appreciate that he let me use that clip here. I think on that kind of is Ravensburger going to screw the pooch and reprint everything into the ground subject. Next Lorcana video will probably be about Fabled. Are we going to get a Fabled reprint? Man, am I interested to see if we're going to get a Fabled reprint. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification because it'll probably be sometime this week. I don't know. Hit the like and comment. I don't know. Comment your favorite hobby that isn't TCGs. Because Frank covers if you, again, I told you he's an algo fighter. The dude will give you comic book recommendations, video games. He covers the gamut. And I want you to comment down below something outside of TCGs. The reason you're watching this video, give me a comment completely unrelated to all that shit about something that you get a little bit of joy out of in your life that you just find, hey, that's a fun little hobby. Because, man, remember when this shit was a hobby, y'all? I love you all. I'm rambling. T's and G's or whatever you make of them. And Bulls be blessed and all that good shit. I love you all. All right, take it easy.